Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. So today we will be discussing about few more geopolitical events that have happened in the past 2 days. So it has been a while since I made these daily updates because a lot of my time went in creating the complete history of US and Iran conflict since 1979. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and do watch it and let me know what you think about it. And let's get started with today's updates. Okay, so there was a conference in Munich, um, Munich Security Conference 2026, Germany as host in times of geopolitical upheavals. Okay, so what has happened is that this Munich conference is like a huge gathering of all the world leaders, and this is a platform where they can get to connect with um, the lot of other leaders and interact and make informal discussions and deals and whatever they want. So there have been significant improvements, or I shouldn't say improvement, there have been significant talks between nations that were earlier not on good talking terms. So some of the news have come up, some of the news hasn't come up. Obviously, there is Marco Rubio who has been in discussion with Europe. Um, there is this stuff about which China has made about Japan. Few things about South Africa and the EU Mercosur deal. So, like these are the four topics which I've picked. So let's get into it. Let's see what Rubio has to say.
And Europe, we belong together. So in a time of headlines heralding the end of the transatlantic era, let it be known and clear to all that this is neither our goal nor our wish. Because for us Americans, our home may be in the Western Hemisphere, but we will always be a child of Europe. And if at times we disagree, our disagreements come from our profound sense of concern about a Europe with which we are connected, not just economically, not just militarily. We are connected spiritually, and we are connected culturally. We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must.
Okay, so you saw Marco Rubio trying to mend some things that have been affected in the past. I don't want to point out names to anyone. Obviously, there have been some statements by the US government which have led to this specific situation. Obviously, I have stated in my previous videos that the alliance between US and Europe is not going anywhere. These guys are allies for sure, and nothing is going to change that. Because the thing is that now there are two axes. There are two axes in the world: Russia, China, India. India is on the neutral side, but Russia, China, Iran, maybe a couple of more countries. And the other axis is US, Canada, Europe. Now there's a crack in there is definitely a crack in the axis of US and Europe. Okay, because mostly because of Greenland. Um, this thing with resources and oil, which both US and Europe want for itself, is causing all these problems in this geopolitical rift in between these two. But to be honest, it's better to have an old friend rather than a new enemy. I don't think Europe and China and Russia are going to gel well enough, because once I have in my previous video shown how much kindly President Putin thinks of about European Union. So let's see. There is a deal for Ukraine as well on the cards, which I think is going to happen soon. Since Europe, I hope so that European Union won't be involved, which would lead to a better solution. But let's see what happens. Okay, this one is a big message which I wanted to show. Let's get into it.
Here, I wish to say one thing, that is, we should be.
Okay, this is by Chinese foreign minister for China, Wang Yi. They have made a statement, obviously, about Taiwan, and they are basically they definitely want Taiwan, and this is a warning to Japan. So let's see what he has to exactly say.
Be alert to a very dangerous development in Asia. Not long ago, this sitting Japanese Prime Minister said publicly that a Taiwan contingency amounts to a survival-threatening situation that could trigger the use of collective self-defense. So this is the first time in 80 years that a Japanese Prime Minister has uttered such words. It directly violates China's territorial sovereignty, and it directly challenges the fact that Taiwan has been returned to China. It completely violates Japan's commitment to China. Could China possibly accept this provocation? No way. No Chinese can accept it. Here, we are in Europe, in Germany. I like to make a comparison. After the Second World War, Germany conducted a thorough reckoning with Nazi crimes and passing laws to ban all the speech and actions promoting Nazi ideology. But Japan still pays homage to the Class A war criminals, and they are enshrined as so-called heroic spirits. So this means that Japan has lingering ambitions for invasion and colonialism of Taiwan, and the ghost of militarism are still haunting the country. The lessons are not far behind us. Back then, Japan also cited the so-called survival-threatening situation to launch its war of aggression against China, and also the Pearl Harbor. If Japan doesn't truly repent on its wrongdoing, history will only repeat itself. This is the lesson we should learn. So I think all the conscious people should be alert and stay sharp. The Japanese people should not let the far-right extremists fool and drag them along. And every country that values peace should shout this loud and clear at Japan right now. If you go back down that old road, it will be a dead end. If you try gambling again, the loss will be faster and more devastating.
Okay, so China is not happy with Japan. So maybe what we'll do is we'll make a separate video for this topic, like what is happening between China, Japan, and Taiwan. But for China to make comments that like China is actively involved in seizing lands which it thinks belongs to itself, and the only, like, how should I put it? You don't need to be a neighbor of China to have a border dispute with China. So over here in this video, The Chinese minister is not happy with Japan over Taiwan. So he has stated, and he's referencing it from the past, that Japanese actually revere those leaders who were present earlier. That is fine, and they pay homage to them. That is fine as well. But I think Japan is a very peaceful country. But still, this has happened in Munich. So with all the things that are going on, um, I don't know why China has to get involved in anything. Like, it has a clean sheet right now. It's not involved in any scuffle. There was a recent attempt at a coup, but other than that, I think if I was the king of China, I would just wait and see which of the powers would get weak and not make threats to anybody else. But that's fine. They want to deal with Japan in whichever way that is diplomatically correct for them. And let's see where this conflict goes. We will. I think I'll cover this part of China, Japan, and Taiwan. So yeah, we'll get into it. Zambia. Okay, I just wanted to start this video because Zambia has had a lot of investments in copper, a lot of investments from major countries, European Union, US, and other countries as well. So here's the
mining Indaba has opened in Cape Town, South
clipping for it.
Africa, with a strong message of partnership other than competition to harness the resources of the continent. With 10,000 delegates in attendance, President Hakainde Hichilema used the opportunity to highlight the major reforms that the country has implemented in the sector.
We inherited, as the minister said, a declining economy, growing at minus 2.8% GDP. Not long ago, just 4 years ago. Now we are 4.5 years thereabout incompetent. And therefore, we launched what we called disciplined reforms. Clarity, discipline of execution, consistency. Very important. Now, these reforms are bearing fruit. There's no question about it. We are doing high-resolution geophysical survey for the first time in 50 years in our country. And we're doing it at a national level. And the government is paying for that. We did not want to go and ask somebody to assist us. We said we walk the talk.
The president, who delivered a keynote address, showcased the benefits of the reforms in the past 4 years.
First Quantum Minerals is invested in the Kansanshi mine, S3, $1.25 billion. $1.25 billion. Barrick Gold is Lumana, have invested in a super pit expansion, $2 billion. Mopani.
Okay, so there have been a total of $12 billion investments in Zambia, which is good. They have uplifted their economy, which was falling at a rate whose GDP was falling at 2.8%. I think that's what he said. Now they're going towards a positive path, so that's a good thing. Mercosur, EU Mercosur deal. So there's a problem with that. This is also one topic which we'll cover, but the EU Mercosur deal is actually going to happen. It is going to happen systematically over the next 10 years. But there are a lot of concerns from both sides. And this trade deal is, I think it's called somewhere cars for cows trade deal or something like that. Cars for cattle trade deal. So the major issue over here is that Mercosur, it's a group of countries from South America. So recently, with all these existing trade routes getting disrupted, there have to be new ones. So Mercosur is a part of it, and both areas, Europe and Mercosur, are going to reduce their export duties, import duties, so that there could be a significant increase in trade. The point is that Mercosur does not follow the same standards in food industry as when compared to EU. EU has much higher standards, much higher environmental standards. but Mercosur does not have those because it is still a developing country. Um, there are poison, like let's watch these two videos which I have pulled up, and we will get into details of the issue in this deal. So let's take a look at it.
So the government has decided to oppose the Mercosur trade deal. But what exactly is the deal and why was it so controversial here? The trade deal between Europe and the South America's Mercosur bloc will see import taxes removed on the majority of exports from both areas. For the EU, 91% of EU exports will see duties removed, and in return, 92% of Mercosur exports to the EU will no longer have duties on them. This will happen over a period of at least 10 years. One crucial part, for Ireland anyway, is the EU would allow an increased quota of 99,000 metric tonnes of beef into the EU market. This was controversial for a number of reasons. There was a fear that cheaper beef being imported into the EU market would impact the income of EU farmers. There were concerns over food standards in countries like Brazil, as well as concerns over the climate and the impact farming in Brazil has had on the Amazon rainforest. But there are benefits and opportunities for Ireland too. According to an impact assessment report by the Department of Enterprise in 2021, the deal would see Ireland's export to Mercosur increase by 17% and would be worth €1.2 billion in 2035. At a time when the government is focused on opening up trade links with other countries, the Taoiseach, for example, has spent this week in China, this part of the deal, in theory, goes along with exactly what the government is pushing for. There would be new business opportunities for areas including chemicals and pharmaceuticals, electrical equipment and beverages including whisky. For chemicals and pharmaceutical products, Irish exports to Mercosur amount to approximately €1.02 billion. The Department of Enterprise estimated that should the deal go through, Irish exports in this sector would increase by 104%. While the trade deal is expected to be passed by the EU Council on Friday, it still has to go through the European Parliament, when over 700 MEPs will make their decision. With most Irish MEPs set to vote against the deal, there is still a way to go before the deal is fully ratified.
Is toxic for the planet and the people. Have you been listening to the family farmers on both sides of the Atlantic that urge us not to sign this trade agreement? Or have you been listening to the big land-owning oligarchs that are teaming up with the agrochemical multinationals that run thousands of hectares big farms spreading pesticides that are banned in Europe with airplanes? Have you been listening to the indigenous communities and Quilombo communities that came all the way to Brussels to report about their poisoned rivers, their poisoned wells, their burnt down forests, the deforestation and the attacks on them? Have you been listening to the labor organization that report about child labor, about forced labor, but in very high numbers? Yes, we need to increase our cooperation with Mercosur. Yes, we need to increase our cooperation with democracies. But as it stands, this trade agreement, in my point of view, is not fit for purpose. We still need to work on that and need to improve it as it stands.
Okay. So Europe does not think that the food industry of Mercosur should be part of the deal. And there are good reasons which have been highlighted there. So we'll cover these two topics separately, the China, Japan, Taiwan part and the Mercosur part. Meanwhile, there have been a lot of developments in US-Iran case. There have been a lot of ultimatums, and it's like US is amassing its armies near Iran, which is actually pretty scary too. It could work. Sometimes people just give up only because they don't have the military strength to fight back their opponent. But I'm not sure Iran is that kind of country. They will do something. But let's see what President Trump has in mind. So Ukrainian president also met in Munich with Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State. Like I've mentioned, that there is going to be a peace deal, but I think European Union and Zelensky are going to be out of it. So let's see how things go over there. Things might get tough for Zelensky if he's out and the European Union is out of the trade of the peace deal. But I think that's how it's going to be, because Russia is demanding that only the United States be held in the peace talks, and it is not going to address the rest because the discussions are going nowhere. Okay. So let's see what's going on with the world in the coming week. Thank you. If you like this video, you can hit like, you can subscribe, and stay tuned with us. Thank you.